You might have heard of Vlookup if you've been working with Excel or Google Sheets, but you might not have heard of Xlookup. As the name suggests, these formulas help you look up information within your data and are especially useful for automatically parsing out huge chunks of data. Xlookup is basically Vlookup's bigger brother, and was only introduced in 2019 for Excel and 2022 for Google Sheets. As the resident Excel nerd on the team, I think it's way simpler and easier to use instead of Vlookup. It looks like this. The lookup value is what you're looking for, the lookup array is where you're looking, and the return array is what you want the system to spit back out. Let's say I'm looking into this big list of data and need to find the email that belongs to Bob. I've got this column of emails, a bunch of data I don't need for this task, and then a column full of names. So I could go into this unused cell over here and say equals Xlookup, open parenthesis. Lookup value is what I'm looking for, so I'd put in Bob in quotation marks. Lookup array is where I'm looking, so I'll just select the column with all the names. The return array is the info we want, so since we want Bob's email, I'll select the column with the emails. And there you have it. Now that's all you need for the basic functionality of Xlookup. However, you can also use these three more optional variables for some fine-tuning. The variables are if not found, match mode, and search mode. If not found is a baked-in error handler, so if the lookup value isn't found in the lookup array, it will return whatever you put here. If you leave it blank, Excel will just return NA. Match mode determines what happens when the system cannot find an exact match. It gives you 4 different options to choose from. 0, which is the default. If an exact match isn't found, the if not found variable will be returned instead. -1 means if the system can't find an exact match, it'll return with the next smaller item. 1 means if the system can't find an exact match, it'll return the next larger item. And 2 is a wildcard match where the user can use asterisks and question marks. This takes a bit to explain, and chances are you'll just want to stick with the default anyways. Lastly, search mode gives us another 4 options that we can choose that specify how the system searches. That sounds vague, but I think it helps to know what each of these values are. 1 performs the search by starting at the first item of the lookup array. This is the default, since typically you want to start from the top. -1 performs a search by starting at the last item of the lookup array, so it goes from the bottom up. 2 performs a binary search and requires that the values in the lookup array column are sorted in ascending order. -2 is also a binary search, but this one requires that the values in the lookup array column are instead in descending order. While all these options are cool, you'll typically be using the first 2 options, 1 or -1. So using my Bob example from earlier, if I wanted the system to look for Bob's name in the list of names and return their email, but if the system can't find it, I want it to say, nope, find only an exact match, and start searching from the bottom of the list instead of the top, it would look like this. Equals Xlookup, open parenthesis, Bob, comma, the column with the names, comma, the column with the emails, comma, nope, comma, 0, comma, -1, close parenthesis. If that optional portion went over your head, don't worry. Like I said, these last 4 bits are optional and are only necessary for specific niche instances. Now you might be asking, that's cool and all, Kyle, but why would I use this instead of Vlookup? And look, Vlookup is great, I've used it for a long time. For a more in-depth look at it, you can check out our step-by-step tutorial. But Xlookup does have 2 pretty significant advantages over Vlookup. The error handling is a lot better since it's baked into Xlookup, instead of depending on an additional formula like equals if error. And Xlookup does not require the lookup array to be before or to the left of the return array. This was a huge drawback of Vlookup because in Vlookup you could only look for values to return that were to the right of your lookup value, so you'd often have to rearrange your entire datasheet in order to get Vlookup to function the way you wanted, but with Xlookup, that's no longer necessary. There you go, fellow spreadsheet nerds. Now you've got one more tool in your Excel and Google Sheet utility belt. Go test it out. I hope you learned something new today. If you found the video useful, hit those like and subscribe buttons down below and leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.